Joining me is the National Senate Leader Bridget McKenzie. Thanks so much for your time as always. Let's start with the emissions vehicle standards. The opposition leader's been at Parramatta today at Toyota dealership. Actually, Toyota's been largely positive about what the government's going to do at a manufacturer level. Isn't the government simply bringing Australia parallel to what the US is doing, and not until 2028?
Yeah, great to be with you, Kieran, from gorgeous Wauchope. No, that's not actually the case. I've been with dealers, including Toyota dealers, here in Port Macquarie this morning, and they're saying this is going to be incredibly difficult, not just for them as local dealers, but particularly for the Australians purchasing four-wheel drives, SUVs and utes over coming years. The reality is the government hasn't taken the US model in its entirety, and we've seen already last week the Biden administration second-guessing their own thinking about it. What the government's put on the table, and industry figures show, that starting next year, the average family car, the cars that Australians love to drive, that crowd primary schools and sporting fields, car parks every day, will be more expensive to buy. That is a reality. And when you look at 2029, the way this thing ratchets up, even hybrid SUVs are going to be more expensive to buy as a result of this policy. So I'm thinking what Australians will typically do is keep their old cars in their garage longer because they won't be able to afford the additional ticket price.
My understanding is the government is in talks with the industry to work out, because as you point out, and rightly point out, it's not exactly as the US undertakes its standards, because there are subsidies and other supports for industry. As I say, my understanding is there is a negotiation underway right now between the government and industry. If they land on a compromise, that would be a good thing, would it not?
Yeah, well, Kieran, there's a lot of ifs. You're right. The US does not just subsidise industry, subsidises the consumer as well. And if you talk to, big behemoths like Ford, there's a lot of EVs sitting in paddocks and on car lots right now being unable to be sold. So we don't want to take a broken system from the US to try and implement here. What we do want to see is a low emission transport sector going forward. We want it to be affordable. We want Australians to still be able to afford the cars they love to drive. And right now the government hasn't got it right. You're right, they're in a consultation phase at the moment with industry, and that's why it's so concerning that the government won't release the modelling on which this policy is based. We need to understand the impact so we can understand where the challenges are with this trajectory, because right now it is going too hard, too fast, and will cost Australians too much.
I want to ask you about a few other stories. This Fair Work Commission, the report in the 9 papers suggesting the Fair Work Commission's looking at changing the award for more than 2 million workers, could have flow-on effects to others on industrial agreements based on the awards, but basically to enshrine the right to work from home. Is that the right approach, do you think, or is it just way too much flexibility that we need to get people back into the office?
Look, Kieran, the reason our interest rates are killing us all at the moment is because the government can't do two things. It can't get its spending under control and it can't lift productivity. And here we have another example of the government focusing on productivity flattening industrial relations arrangements. You cannot tell me that bosses around the country, and we've heard from a lot of them in recent months, aren't screaming for their workforce to get back to work under the same roof. Of course, there needs to be flexibility for a variety of arrangements, but for many workplaces, working from home isn't suitable, and to enshrine it under the Fair Work provisions, I think would be a very backward step, and once again, suggests the Labor Party has a one-size-fits-all model to every question that it tries to answer. And the reality is we're a big country, we do a lot of different things in different places, and we need that flexibility if we're ever going to lift productivity in the workplace.